Kitco News, special coverage of the Decentral Miami Conference, is brought to you by Cook Finance, a revolution in DeFi asset management.
We're here to talk about the perennial question of whether or not Bitcoin is still the ultimate store of value. For the next guest, Roc Zacharias. He's the co-founder of QuickSwap. We'll be talking about QuickSwap as well, the latest developments of DeFi. Welcome to the show. Roc, pleasure to have you on.
Great to see you again, man.
We had a panel on earlier, and you were great. I loved your answer. I'm going to ask you again for our viewers who haven't obviously seen the panel because they're not here in Miami with us. Bitcoin. What can beat Bitcoin in the crypto space as the ultimate store of value?
The short answer is nothing. The more nuanced answer is, look, Bitcoin, it started it all. It had this immaculate conception. The founder came, we don't know who he is. He's like a religious figure to some people.
Who is he? Who is Satoshi? Are you Satoshi?
No. We're all Satoshi. It's definitely not Craig Wright. Sue me, Craig. So it had this immaculate conception. It was a fair launch, a truly fair launch. Even, my project, QuickSwap, you mentioned, the #1 DEX on Polygon, we had a fair launch. We call it a fair launch, but we raised no funds, which is great. But we did keep 3.25% for ourselves, for the advisors, co-founders, et cetera. Right. But that's about as fair as you get these days. Sure. Compared to Bitcoin, that's not fair. Sure. Bitcoin was truly fair. Bitcoin, nobody took any. Satoshi released the code in the white paper, so anybody could have mined. Now, not a lot of people did it first, so he got 1 million tokens, or we think. But those have never been spent. If it's Hal Finney, maybe his kids have the keys. Maybe someday they'll resurface, but nothing yet. And it's the only truly hard money in the world. It's the only truly sound money. It takes everything that gold did and it does it much better. It's like if you could design gold from the ground up and make it perfect. That's what Bitcoin is. And Ethereum is great, and I love Ethereum, and I build on Ethereum and Polygon, but they're not sound money. It can be changed. And you don't want your savings, the inheritance that I put in some smart contract for my kids in 30 years, I don't want to know that that's going to change if I die. Right?
So you're confident in putting your money in Bitcoin and waiting 30 years for your kids. You would do that?
Absolutely, yeah.
So you would leave Bitcoin as an inheritance for your kids?
100%, I'm going to. 100%, yeah.
And you think no other protocol is going to have that characteristic? I mean, the argument, again, from the panel, the argument is that Bitcoin doesn't really do anything. It's not designed as a utility token. Well, it was designed as a peer-to-peer system. Some argue, I've heard from even Bitcoin maximalists that has failed. Arguably, as a peer-to-peer system, it has failed. So there's no real utility to Bitcoin. Everything Bitcoin does, something else does better.
Well, for inheritance, you can do that on Bitcoin. I don't know. I think I've heard of some projects building stuff, but they have the HTLCs for Lightning Network, the hash time lock contract. So I'm pretty sure I could just do a time lock for 20 years and have a beneficiary address, I think. I'm not sure, but it'll happen. And look, maybe some of that will be done on other chains. I'm okay with that. We were talking about on stage earlier, Ethereum is one of the biggest, it's a bigger Bitcoin layer 2 than Lightning Network right now, I think. So, because you have Wrap Bitcoin and Ren Bitcoin, and some of these are centralized, some less, but that's a layer 2 of Bitcoin. And Polygon, which is a layer 2 of Ethereum, is a layer 3 of Bitcoin. I could trade Bitcoin on, QuickSwap for 1 penny on a layer 3.
I want to bring up some news from today. This week, Jack Dorsey resigned as CEO from Twitter to focus on cryptocurrencies. Is that news going to have any impact on the space whatsoever? I mean, how are you digesting that news?
I think there's pros and cons to that. Him being the CEO of Twitter. Now, I don't know. I haven't read the story. I've just what I've heard, but I don't know how much of a role. Hopefully, he'll stay on as a chairman or on the board or something. But I think as being the CEO of Twitter, he had a lot of power to help, like implementing tipping with Bitcoin and things like that. So I think from that position, he had a lot that he could do. But look, he's one of the greater minds in tech, and if he's going to quit Twitter to do Bitcoin full time, I mean, that's a great thing for all of us. And I don't agree with everything he ever does, by the way. But I think the guy is a brilliant guy, and he's one of the biggest fighters for the decentralized movement.
You know, it's interesting because there's an old adage in finance where if everybody starts working on something or starts talking about something, it's probably at the tipping point. It's probably the hype's gonna break and the dam's gonna break and everything's gonna fall apart. I heard that in 2017. Hasn't really fallen apart yet, although we did have a correction. We did have a crypto winter for a couple of years. So is this the top, you think? Is this all this hype that you're feeling right now, is this gonna collapse?
Probably at some point, yeah. There will be many collapses. There's the funny guy on YouTube who's like, Bitcoin always crashes. I don't know if you saw him from a long time ago, and he shows like, oh, look, see, Bitcoin went up here and it crashed. Then it went up here and it crashed. So it's always gonna hit newer highs and then it's gonna crash. People get too euphoric and it scares me right now. I mean, NFTs in particular are just ridiculous. You're buying an Ether rock for millions of dollars. I'm not saying it's bullshit, but a lot of them will become bullshit because people will just bail on it at some point. But a lot of them will be the greatest art pieces in the world in 20 years or 100 years.
So you don't think all cryptos are going to crash? Some will survive.
I think it'll all crash.
Right.
Some more than others. A lot of NFTs and gaming stuff that's very more on the speculative side will lose 99% of its value. Right. And you'll have maybe Bitcoin will lose 60% of its value and Ether will lose 80% of its value. And the other protocols, maybe Polygon will lose 85%. It'll be a scale of safety. Bitcoin's your safest, right? And that'll lose the least. And then it'll all go up 100 times again from there, And
just to play devil's advocate here now, if Bitcoin does correct another 60%, not saying it will, but let's say it does, how can it still be
someday?
Someday,
Probably.
yeah, and it'll probably rebound after that. But how can it be a store of value if the volatility profile is so high? That's the argument that people make against Bitcoin, is that look at gold, it doesn't really move much in either direction. Store of value.
Well, that's an argument. It's a fair argument. But you tell me, gold is the same price as it was 10 years ago today. And Bitcoin is, I don't know, 10 years, 10,000 or 10 million% higher. I'll take the volatility. I prefer the volatility. If something's not volatile, you lose the gains. I mean, it means there's no alpha left. Right now, there's still lots of alpha in Bitcoin. There's, as much as everybody kind of hears about it and knows about it, not everyone's bet fully on it yet because it's only $1 trillion market cap. And if you look at the things that it could disrupt, bond markets, global bond markets, and corporate bond market, I mean, those are hundreds of trillions. We're still in the early stages.
To my earlier point about Bitcoin not performing as well technologically compared to other coins, right? If you think about what it does,
I would disagree, but
you would disagree. Okay, well, tell me why I'm wrong there.
It's performing exactly as it was designed.
Okay.
Bitcoin, it's staying the same. We can trust the monetary policy not to change, unlike Ethereum. In Ethereum, we just had EIP 1559, which changed the emissions. We would argue for the better, it was a good thing. Most people would agree. I like it. It's great. They're burning a ton of ETH. But what does that mean in the future? Like, what if it goes the other way? What if they change it and say, Vitalik, he's an environmental guy, which I am too. But what if he says, hey guys, I really think we should take 10% of the mining rewards and instead of burning it, let's take 10% and give it to environmental funds. Some people would argue that's good. Some people would argue that's bad. Arguments for both. I don't want my money changing. I don't want my money policy to be changed by someone at the top. And Vitalik, he's called himself like a high priest in a way. That's his kind of role he feels like it needs. But I don't want a high priest or anyone, as much as I like to think he's benevolent and he's good for this space, I don't want him controlling my life savings that I might leave to my children. I want it to stay steady.
One thing we didn't talk about in the panel, because we were talking about DeFi versus CeFi, how traditional finance might be evolving or phased out. One thing we didn't talk about was staking. And so with staking now, you can generate APYs in the double digits, which traditional finance firms, financial institutions
triple
can't really...
digits in some cases.
Triple digits. This is my question. Do you trust that system? Do you trust an APY of triple digits?
Okay, I mean, a shameless plug on QuickSwap.
Yeah.
You can stake, so there are a lot of yield farms.
There's no such thing as a shameless plug, by the way.
Yeah. So there's yield farms in Web3 that are not sustainable. They're mostly just through inflation, getting you to lock your tokens and the more people who lock, if they can convince more people to lock, the price goes up. But the emissions oftentimes with a lot of these high ones, like in 1,000%, it crashes eventually. There are some that are sustainable. You asked on stage what's going to be sustainable in the crash, and I said a lot of DEXs, because, like QuickSwap, because so you could stake Quick in the Dragon's Lair, and you get like 25-30% APY. That's step one. That is fully sustainable if the volume continues, which it could go down. It goes up and down, but we average 100 million volume a day on QuickSwap on Polygon, and that 25% is just your fee of the trading fees. It's like you're a little mini CZ, Binance. His team gets the yields there, but on QuickSwap and other DEXs like Uniswap, the liquidity providers or people on QuickSwap, if you hold the token, you get a portion of the proceeds. So you're a little mini owner of the exchange in a kind of way. Nobody owns it because it's decentralized. But I think that is sustainable. We also have syrup pools like Pancake, which projects donate their tokens, and we give them liquidity farming, and then we give those tokens fully to the community, 100% everything. And that might not be as sustainable because that's kind of paid for through inflation. So some things are sustainable, some things aren't. Be careful. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. But it is common to find some double-digit APYs, 20-30% that have been around for 6 months, a year plus.
How does it work on QuickSwap?
So QuickSwap is just like Uniswap. You can provide liquidity. So let's say you have wrapped Bitcoin and ETH. I was talking about it's a layer 2 of Bitcoin. You take your wrapped Bitcoin and your ETH, you put it in a liquidity pool, right? A liquidity position, and you get a portion of the trading fees that flows through that pair. Someone trades Bitcoin for ETH or ETH for Bitcoin. Every trade that happens back and forth, the liquidity providers get a percentage of those fees. Same thing on QuickSwap, except for we've also added that we subsidize it with our governance token, Quick. Uniswap did that for like a few months after the whole Sushi vampired them. So Sushi tried to take their liquidity by creating the governance token model. Uniswap said, we're going to fight back by creating our own governance token model, which is Uni now. So they fought back and pulled the liquidity back. We copied that model and cloned the Uniswap. QuickSwap's just a clone of Uniswap with some extra features. So you provide liquidity, you get a portion of the trading fees, you get some of the governance token, you take that governance token and lock it in Dragon's Lair, you get some of the overall trading fees of the exchange, and then you take that and you lock it in our syrup pools, and you get another like 60% on top of that 25-30%. If you compound it, it's like 130% or something. And a lot of that is sustainable if we could maintain volume, which is just that's real volume and revenue. That is, we've averaged 100 million a day for, a year.
And why can't a traditional bank do that?
They can, but the thing is, they don't really want to because then they don't get the profit. QuickSwap has no profit. Any revenue that's generated goes directly to the community. So there is no profit. So we got, like my company, Lunar Digital Assets, got 1% of the total supply. Two other co-founders got like 1% and 1.25%. And that's what we gotta make that worth something now. So we are incentivized to build this thing up because we want it to succeed. So the small amount of tokens, it's relatively small for most projects. So it becomes worth something big. And we just love the project, and I love Polygon and what they're doing to scale Ethereum.
All right. Biggest advancements in DeFi right now that you're watching right now that could really change the landscape?
Scaling. That's the obvious answer. We all see that. I like some projects doing like central order books as opposed to like the AMM structure. It's a little more familiar to people. Stuff like that's interesting. I think the biggest, so NFTs are obviously a big craze right now. It's been kind of nuts. It's a little scary. It's definitely frothy. I would be careful going all in on it. Maybe put a small percent in it you want to play in that area. But the biggest thing I see coming is gaming. So I had a call with Yatsu, chairman of Animoca, one of the biggest gaming studios. They incubate projects, invest in projects. I think they incubated Sandbox and invested in Axie Infinity. They have a new Blocktopia on Polygon. And they're pushing a lot of their projects now to come launch on Polygon. It's one of the best places for gaming. A penny or less transaction gas fees. And I see them doing that. The gaming community is so massive in the world. I don't know how many what, hundreds of billions of dollars is gaming.
Well,
it's
video
huge.
gaming as an industry is bigger than the movie industry and the music industries combined. So it makes sense because a lot of young people playing games also are into cryptos. The marriage between DeFi and gaming, we're seeing that with GameFi, we're seeing that with the play to earn model. What's next?
I mean, those are kind of a core of it. I used to play EverQuest for a long time. I was selling digital currencies over 20 years ago to Brock Pierce, one of the creators of EOS, and Jonathan Yantis, one of the, I think, co-founders of Wax, I believe. And I was selling them platinum in this game, and they became IGE, Internet Gaming Entertainment, and which was like $1 billion company, I think. But I was selling that platinum when I was like a kid. I was like 13. And I mean, that I saw some Brock Pierce interviews, and I've talked to him, and he said, that made him see the digital scarcity. Why is a sword worth so much money in this game? I was selling a Baton of Thunder, I forget what it was called. There was like a rare item in EverQuest to this guy. And I asked him, I was like, I don't want to ruin my sale, but why are you paying $1,000 for this item? That's crazy. And he said, I'm a doctor. That would take me 6 months to get in the game because it's so rare. I make that an hour at work. And so, if we can now take that model and have you own your own stuff, own your own items and equipment and characters, but you could trade it in a free open market on blockchain, you're going to see people right now. Professional gaming is big, but it's very like Pareto's distribution. Like only the top 1% are making money at it. Streamers, sponsored guys, pro gamers.
And what do you think about the metaverse? How is that going to influence gaming and DeFi?
I mean, you look at like EverQuest was a metaverse. World of Warcraft was basically metaverses.
I love World of Warcraft.
I mean, it copied EverQuest.
I want to experience World of Warcraft in virtual reality.
There's projects doing it already.
I want to
definitely
forget the mouse and the monitor. I want to be the avatar. Like that's.
You want to feel like that sword hit
exactly.
you.
I don't know if I want to physically feel it. I don't want to feel the magic spells hitting my face.
What if they like get you like some zapper that like you get hit by the sword? And
then you'd actually have an incentive to not die, right?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
How do you
Ready
think?
Player One, man.
Exactly. Well, that's kind of a scary. That's kind of a scary thought. DeFi in the metaverse. How is that going to be integrated?
Well, I just talked to a game today. There's several games on Polygon that if you want to trade your assets in that game. So QuickSwap is just like Uniswap. It's composable. It's DeFi Legos. You can build on it. You can integrate it in your game, in your wallet. Telcoin. They do stuff with mobile phones all over the world, millions of users, and you're trading on it. Just goes through QuickSwap on the back end in the Telcoin wallet. Same thing with gaming. So you can put QuickSwap DEX in the background of your game, and let's say you want to trade, your in-game currency, game token for Ethereum in the game. You can do that in the game with QuickSwap as the background liquidity foundation.
Well, I think there are exchanges now that aggregate a bunch of tokens from different games, right? WoW, actually, we're talking about World of Warcraft. It had its own in-game token. So that's my question. Why can't games just create their own in-game token? Why do they necessarily have to use a blockchain? Why can't they just, the WoW coin, for example, was like, you play for a certain amount of time, and then you can use that token to buy items, or you could use that token to buy more game time.
They already have that. Part of the problem is it's not composable. You can't use it elsewhere.
Right.
And you're not even allowed to sell it. I don't know if World of Warcraft has banned that. EverQuest did. A lot of games banned that. But people still do it on the black market. Of course,
it's banned, but they still do it, yeah.
But imagine this. I go earn platinum in this game, and it would be legal or allowed on blockchain because that's why we're doing it. Power to the people. And now you take your, WoW Gold or whatever game wants to do it. And now I could go put that on QuickSwap and earn a yield on it, right? Or an Aave, right? So now I could put this and I could earn yield on my gold I earned in this game, and I could pay my mortgage with that. I made $60,000 in a couple months when I was 13 selling platinum to Brock Pierce and stuff. So that was back then. There was not a market like there is now. Now there's people that professionally do this for a living. They farm, and that's what Axie Infinity has now brought it to blockchain. But there's professional World of Warcraft miners that just sit and farm something and sell the gold for real money. It's hard and it's against the rules. We create this as a blockchain game. You can do that. Something else that's really cool. You could take. I've always imagined, let's say there's a blockchain, fantasy chain, whatever we want to call it. So let's say you earn the sword of truth in this game, and in one game, it's a big, huge sword, like some Final Fantasy VII, Cloud, Sephiroth thing. But then you go to like a shooting game that's built on the same blockchain, or it like speaks to that blockchain, and now that sword of truth is now this big sword gun, a knife gun that's like, from one of the other Final Fantasies, So there's stuff like that where you could take this asset here and use it somewhere else. People are doing that with like Bored Apes, and you could go into, you could do real life stuff, like go to a yacht party and you have to have a Bored Ape to get there. Or you take so there's I think there's some NFTs on QuickSwap where you like have this, it's a dragon, and like in one game, it's like a pet. And in another game, it can fight for you. But it's still the same asset. The possibilities are really endless.
Hey man, great talking to you. Thank you, Roc, for coming on the show.
Yeah, great talking to you, David. Good seeing you.
And thank you for watching Kitco News. We'll have more for you from Miami.
Kitco News, special coverage of the Decentral Miami Conference, is brought to you by Cook Finance, a revolution in DeFi asset management.